Thank you, Mr. President. I hear a lot of people, Senator Ralph, you said people make arguments that want to justify their point of view, whether it's on the Constitution or whatever. I wanted to say that those who say they worry about the impact on businesses of 800 different minimum wage laws, which I don't think is a reality. I think there are 3 or 4 that might be possible, that those who are concerned about that ought to support changing at the state level. I have Senate File 626, which is a gradual phase into 16 an hour. I didn't get a hearing on the bill, which I'd welcome. I have a feeling if I did get a hearing, I'd probably hear some objections to we shouldn't do this statewide, different needs in different parts of the state. But if the concern is that this is going to have a confusing impact on businesses, doing it statewide would make a lot of sense, and I'd urge support for that bill. But I think a lot of the objection isn't to the fact that local governments are setting up different standards. I think a lot of objections may well be to the fact that they are trying to raise the minimum wage. And to that, I'd just like to suggest that I don't know what people expect advocates, people in the community, ordinary citizens to do when they have some problem with government. When workers are working full-time and can't make ends meet, when they're living deep in poverty despite a full-time job at minimum wage. And so they would probably like the federal government to raise the minimum wage, and they have no way of competing in the federal arguments, no way to get action from Congress. So they come to the state capitals. And it doesn't take them as far to travel to get to the state capitol here, and they reach out to us and urge us to raise the minimum wage so people can make ends meet. And they don't get the success they need here, so they try their local governments and say, we live in Minneapolis or St. Paul, and we can't make ends meet on the kind of income we get. And some of us working 2 jobs. What more do you want us to do? Can we get some help? And the local governments decide they're going to try and help them, and they think this is a matter of fairness for their citizens. They think it's a matter of fairness for people who are trying to rent or buy property in their cities. And so they raise the wage. And now the state capitol are saying, well, we don't want you to do that because we don't want the wage to be higher than what it is. I think those who are arguing this is really confusing to businesses, it seems that the core of the argument is what should the minimum wage be? I'd like it to be much higher than the $10 to $9 something an hour it is right now. But let's acknowledge that this is a way we block people from getting a minimum wage increase, even though every time it goes on the ballot, and we don't have initiative here in Minnesota, but every state, South Dakota, Alaska, Arkansas, I think the 2 Carolinas, they've tried minimum wage increases, and every single time they pass by 3/4 of the vote. Well more than landslide political victories for ballot initiatives on raising the minimum wage in any state. Minnesota would be higher than most. So the public strongly supports this. They can't get it at the federal level. They can't get it at the state level. They try the local level, and we say, well, we're not going to let you do that. So I think it's yes, as somebody was arguing before, we do have the constitutional ability to block cities from doing this, but that doesn't make it a good idea to do. I think the people of Minneapolis and St. Paul have spoken through their local elected officials, and for us to step in and say that they're more equal than others because they want their folks to have a decent living is not a good argument for us to take that away because we don't like it because other cities choose not to do that. So I urge members to support the Isaacson Amendment, and if you don't like the disparate impact on businesses, then let's raise it statewide.